welcome Red Ice members. Thank you for tuning in to our part 2 with Terry Malenson. We are of course talking about the history of the Order of the Illuminati. And I thought that in this second segment we could move a little bit upwards in the timeline, as it were, and talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that is going on today, of course, and then see if there's some other connections in between, not only from the 17th or 18th century, but also going into the 19th century, perhaps. But what I'd like to ask you, Terry, is a kind of I guess, an easy question, but not as such an easy answer, and that is, I guess, would be, are the Illuminati around still today? What do you think?
No, I doubt it. If there's any remnants of the vestiges that happened back in the 18th century, it would have long ago morphed into other things, and they probably wouldn't even know of their original origin, right?
How about ideologically then?
Pardon?
How about ideologically? Do you think that the ideology that Weishaupt began talking about, do you think that is still around today?
Yeah. Anarchism.
Right. And
basically that's what it is right there in a nutshell.
Mm.
Anarchism and revolutionary communism and egalitarianism. The actual explosion of revolutionaries during the 19th century is basically harkening back to the original Weishaupt.
Do you think that there's any kind of intermediary step here? If we, for instance, talk about Freemasonry, they have been, although I myself think that this is kind of an oxymoron, but in some circles you hear the jive that Freemasonry is involved in bringing in the democratic process, for instance, into nations and so forth, and then that could be seen, I guess, as an intermediary step towards getting rid of the monarchy and bringing in people rule under the surface. It's there's so many facets of that we can dissect and totally pick apart, of course. But if we talk about Freemasonry, do you see that any traces of Illuminism is within Freemasonry today, Terry?
Yes, in Europe, because, like I was saying, that the head of Freemasonry, the two heads, the main heads were the Duke of Brunswick and Karl von Hessen-Kassel. So they were already in control of what was going on. But even after the Illuminati were persecuted, the remaining vestiges of the Illuminati morphed into other things. Like Bode decided to call them by another name in the 1790s. In Gotha, he called it the Eclectic Union. And from there it survived, and he actually instituted as another cover for the Illuminati. What happened was the people that were involved in the Eclectic Union, what they did was they reorganized Freemasonry along their own rationalist lines of what they thought that Freemasonry could be. So the actual people who reorganized it were G.H. Fetter, whom Weishaupt idolized. He was a philosopher, Fetter, and Karl A. Beutiker, and Ludwig Spittler, and Johann Bellarmine. So between the 4 or 5 of them, they're the ones who reorganized German Freemasonry. And then there was another Illuminatus, Schroeder, right? And he decided to institute another branch that was an offshoot of the Illuminati. It was called the Engbund. Right?
Mm-hmm.
First there was the German Masonic Union, which Bode instituted, and then the other one from Schroeder. And so they also reorganized together with the ones I named. There was also Herder, and there was Goethe, and there was Reinhold, who was a philosopher, Karl Leonhard Reinhold and Hoefling. So they were all Illuminati members, and they reinstituted and reorganized Freemasonry, and what it is today is what they made it back then.
Okay.
So if they wanted to make a secret society within a secret society, another tier that was hidden from everybody else, wouldn't it have been a perfect time to do it while they were already thinking along them lines?
How because that's another thing that doesn't fit then in my little worldview of what I've been able to make out of all this, and that's if we take for instance a lot of kings and even queens are the so-called protectors of many orders. They have their pictures hanging on the Masonic Lodge wall or whatever you want to call it. How does that fit together in regards to the idea then that the Illuminati was reforming Freemasonry back at that point in time? Have the Freemasons been able to restore their original order again, or what happened there? Any ideas?
Well, like I said, most nobility were Freemasons back then in the day, and they were trying to look for secrets. A lot of them were alchemists. They had their own alchemical laboratories. It was just as much the age of superstition as it was the age of reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
But basically, they weren't told what was, as far as the Illuminati is concerned, they weren't told what was going on at the very highest echelons. But they're not the guys that were the day-to-day management of the rites and the systems that were going on. In most cases, they weren't. But what I was trying to let you in on there was that German Freemasonry was restructured in the 1790s by Illuminati. All of them were Illuminati.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And plus, what I've also found out is the people that Bodhi had indoctrinated into the Illuminati in 1787 was the second Grand Master. One of them was the second Grand Master of the Grand Orient itself. And when the French Revolution got out of hand and Robespierre started instituting the dictatorship and people were getting their heads chopped off, Freemasonry was banned and they had to go underground. But it resurfaced again in 1795 by Rautier de Montelot. He was a member of the Illuminati. And so he's the one who restructured it and brought it into existence again, and it was at that time that he could put any sort of spin on it that he wanted. So it was birthed out of the ashes by this now confirmed Illuminatus, Rautier de Montelot.
Hmm. And he was, what was he?
Things that were going on at the same time. German Freemasonry was restructured in the 1790s along more rationalist creed, right?
Yeah.
The mysticism and the occultism was dispensed with, right? Because they were against it.
Mm. Okay.
And at the same time, after the French Revolution, another Illuminatus also reinstituted Grand Orient Freemasonry in whichever way he pleased, because he's the one who rescued it from the ashes. So we have two things going on at the same exact time.
Hmm.
And it was all instituted by members of the Illuminati.
What would you say the importance of occult or the esoteric, if we talk about alchemy, for instance, or some of these other esoteric studies? What do you think is the significance of these today in Freemasonry and so forth?
Well, the significance, especially in the German part, is because a lot of them rites of the Scottish Rite, everything that Albert Pike, he said he saw the constitutions of 1786, and that's where he got the 33 degrees. These were all degrees that were practiced way back then, and if there's any secrets to be had, at the very highest echelon, it's a fact that the Illuminati had restructured the whole system in in German Freemasonry, and even in Grand Orient French Freemasonry. So if there's any secrets that are hidden from anybody that we don't know about, it was instituted by Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
So that's significant in and of itself,
Sure.
as far as I'm concerned.
Sure. Absolutely. If we...
And it's a story that most people don't know. Like, have you ever heard that before?
Nope.
Well, that little tidbits that I uncover that sort of makes the story worthwhile in the book itself, right?
And how about the idea, if we just elaborate on the idea of so-called official sources versus more speculative or non-official sources? Could it be somewhere along the line here that the writing is meant to steer people away from what really was going on, even if we're talking about leaked letters or discovered letters afterhand? Is it difficult, do you think, to try to verify if this is really what was going on, or if this was some kind of what do you call it? Basically, within the military for today, for instance, we have misinformation being sent back and forth in order to deter or derail what the enemy is thinking about the other guy or whatever. Do you think that anything like that could have been going on even back then?
No, not in this case. Because when the original cache of documents were discovered, it was handed over to the Bavarian elector, and it was edited just as much as, spelling or whatever, I don't know. And the actual documents were put in the secret archives of the Bavarian Duchy. And it specifically says, if you want to come down here, take a look at these documents and verify that what you see in this book is the exact same thing that you see right in front of your eyes. Come on down. It was like inviting people to go and check the veracity of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people did, right? And the Illuminati, on top of that, the Illuminati didn't deny that it was the documents that they discovered were actual documents that were real. The only thing they objected to was scurrilous footnotes that were appended to certain passages, right?
Okay.
So the authenticity of the documents, like we're talking 800 pages here of letters back and forth to initiates. Like on such and such a day, we said we're going to do this, and we're going to go here, and we're going to do this. Like it's the most massive conspiracy ever uncovered.
What's the
when we talk about these plans, they wanted to take over the world and wanted to get rid of kings. It's because we see it in their own writing, and they couldn't deny it because it was as plain as day.
Right, but they must have failed somewhere along the line then, in that sense, again, because I mean, I guess you said it that they are probably not around today, because the general idea of getting rid of all the kings, that's not something we see today. There's still a lot of them around,
Well, the philosophy, the ideology, it's basically primitivism and anarchism or socialism. And I have quotes from professors that actually admitted, this philosophy is a precursor of anarchism, and it's not just conspiracy theories and talking about this. If you actually dig into it, there's actually historians who verify, yeah, of course. Read it yourself. It's the same exact ideology, right?
Yeah. Do you see that socialism or this ideology even of anarchism? Then do you think that's something that is gaining ground today? Do you see